I know that we're wired for joy. And it's interesting because I grew up in that period of time where John Piper really started to become well known. And he talks about the Christian hedonism. He talks about the joy and Jesus, who for the joy set before him. Even going back to C.S. Lewis, the joyful Christian. There's this idea of joy, which you guys are saying now, hey, they were right. It's just, we now understand the brain science behind it. And it's not just this pursuit of joy. It's a pursuit of joy that we're wired to have to be around people, right?
Yeah, they not only discovered it, but, God discovered it when he taught Moses the prayer for the blessing upon the Israelites, where he says, pray this upon the people as a blessing.
Yes.
And the Lord bless you and keep you, and the Lord make his what?
Face shine upon you, which you talk about that in the book, the
exactly.
Face of God, the face of God. And you mentioned that. I couldn't help but think, because I'm reading this in the pandemic, of course, and there's masks everywhere. And one of the members of our team, Kevin, is his son is on the spectrum, and they had a very hard time going out in public because he couldn't handle the masks and not seeing the face. And I thought, well, with being on the spectrum means that the filter is a filter is not working. In essence, you can't take the environment. And so when I look at that for us, I'm like, well, it's just the same with us. We need to see the face. And that's why some people struggle so much, is we can't read whether or not you want to be with us or not. And we need that. We need that connection. We are wired for that connection. So you guys are saying, first of all, we're wired for joy and to be with people first, right? That's what we're talking about. That's the starting point.
Correct. And it functions like the gas tank again. If our joy is low, meaning I don't have many happy faces that are happy to be with me, that I feel special around. If my joy is low, then my discipleship, even really good Christian practices, aren't going to work very well, because the brain is not in a state where it's maturing and growing character when joy is low. And when our joy is high, that doesn't mean we need nothing else. That's all we need, but that's the prerequisite. Very much like if you had a brand new car, you bought a brand new car, and 0 kilometers, as they would say in Spanish, 0 miles, and it's a perfect car, and yet it has nothing in the gas tank. How useful is that to you? We have this beautiful brain God designed, but when joy is low, it doesn't work very well. Pretty much nothing really works well. And so kind of the overarching discipleship concept here, or principle, is that we start with joy. When we're discipling new Christians, when we meet people, when we're working on things in our life, when we're trying to bring healing as well, one of the first things we do is start with exercises of building joy, which are 2 things: face and eyes. We learn to start giving our face and eyes to people, not in a weird, staring people out and just looking at them where it gets uncomfortable, but giving a couple seconds and letting them just know, I am so glad you're here. Oftentimes, what we find, like in the supermarket, I actually stopped changing the way I waited in line at the supermarket. A lot of times I, pull my phone out and start flipping through things. I keep the phone in the pocket now, and I'm just looking for some people that I can let them know they're beautiful people, they're valuable people. Even if I don't know them well, I can let them know pretty easily that I see value in them. Very important with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, the ideal and most key audience for all of what we're doing in this neuroscience is young mothers and young couples before they have children. My wife and I like to go hiking, and a lot of our hiking trails go through a park first before we go onto the trails. Often we'll go by this park, and there's all these little playthings and everything, and there's just these beautiful little creatures, 2, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, jumping and swinging and doing, and it is so absolutely beautiful, gorgeous. It's almost like a taste of heaven. And then I look over to the park bench where the mother or the father is, and their heads down and they're buried in their phone.
So kids now need to see our faces. They need to see our faces. So we're not burying our phones, because they need to see, this is are you watching, Daddy? Are you watching? Yep. Are you watching? It's and it's the same as adults. I mean, it doesn't really change much, right?
And those kids are looking, even if the parent doesn't realize it, those kids are looking very quickly, off and on. Their brains are actually scanning 6 times a second. And due to that, their eyes are looking over and saying, is mommy and daddy, are they delighted in me? The other word we use with joy is delight. Do I experience the delight of my parents? And that really functions very much as important as giving your kids food. You know, you start withholding food from your child, we start thinking you have mental problems and we need to get help for this. But when we bury our heads in our phones, or when we have the TV on during dinner with small kids, or things that are taking our eyes away from them, it's almost like we're withholding nutrition from them. But it's emotional and relational nutrition they need for their brains to grow, for them to learn a really healthy suite of relational skills, and for them to build emotional resilience, which is very, very important at early age. In the first 4 years of life, they learn how to handle big emotions and stay relational. And a lot of that is through eyes and face encounters around, you know, the big emotions of life that, you know, little toddlers run into, like bumping their heads onto the table, the leg of the table, and they get angry. And the mother gets down with the kid and goes, "Oh, that hurts. I get angry when that happens too. Well, let's see what we can do about this." And these kind of angry interactions face to face, that's actually mother being angry and joyful at the same time. "Oh, that hurts when that does. That makes me angry too." But you can see the anger on the mother's face, but also the mother saying, it is non-verbally communicating, "I'm glad to be with you in this anger. And let's see what we can do about it together." That child, you know, 10 or 20 or 100 more of those interactions around anger and around shame and around fear and around sadness, that young child will have incredible emotional resilience later in life. Most of us don't get that today. We are in a relational skills meltdown right now in our country, and it's something we've never seen before, and it's dangerous territory.